Give us all the good news, Don.
All right. Thank you so much, David, and welcome everyone. August was a fascinating month. We were all ready for a summer. Slow down and not what we got. There was actually more than 2 billion more this August than there was the year before, and even a little bit more than that the year before that. You can see the last time back in 21, in our year of exuberance, funding over exuberance, that we were a little over 10 billion. So we're not close to that, but we are well over where we have been for the last 2 years. And we're on track at 44 billion in funding this year, certainly to exceed where we were last year, since September and October are traditionally two big funding months. So that's a new for the summer. We'll see if this persists now, September, October, or if we're, because of uncertainties, because of election coming up, because of economy, whether we're going to continue in this direction, which, 3 months now we've been up a little, or we're going to return to a downward slope. A lot of the funding this last month was driven by megadeals. If you haven't joined us before, a megadeal is a single funding of 100 million or over. And out of that 5.5 billion, 3.2 billion of it went out in megadeals. Some of them as much as 640 million to a single company. And you can pretty much see where those megadeals ended up. Artificial intelligence, biotech, software, and not a sector we typically see with this amount of funding, security. But maybe not surprising with all the high profile security breaches we've had over the last 6 months. Let's take a quick look at where the money went individually, and you can see the biggest funding went to Grok. If you're not familiar with that name, they are right up there at the top of the list of NVIDIA's competition, and they're moving into production and are now a realistic alternative for at least some of the companies who are looking for extra compute. Like everything else, there's still more demand than there is supply. Infrastructure is still lacking. And you can see from that amount of money going to Grok, a lot of investors believe that there is a lot more potential to be had there. Also in that area, Magic. This is more of going towards super intelligence, general AGI. And the security fundings, I said to you that it was unusual to see this much security. It's very unusual to see 4 mega deals in this area. And all of these are moving into, these are all later stage growth. One, private equity. Sky High Security and Trellix is a private equity buyout that is now getting additional funding to grow. And the only other one here that was unusual, Flyer. That's aviation. It's a AI co-pilot, if you will, for pilots. So we do see AI applications now exceeding the amount of funding that's going towards the AI foundation companies, the OpenAI, the Anthropic. And this was one of the largest that went out this time. Virtually all of these companies had AI highlighted and focused on in their their company descriptions and what they were doing. So no surprise to any of us, right?
Would you, and look, quick question, Don, and by the way, I
Yeah.
love that. I mean, that grok is so, and this grok with a Q, so it's different than Elon Musk grok. It is so fast. Like you hit return, all the results are there like instantaneous, and they have like some
Yeah.
different silicon. That's an Israeli company too, Rachel. So maybe one to look at. And then with something like Cisco's acquisition of Robust Intelligence last week, I didn't even see a number on it, but you wouldn't track that, right? If like a Cisco bought a startup like that, or would you?
Oh
It
We
yeah,
just
do.
what I'm
that'll
saying.
be under our M&A. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Got
Yeah,
it.
and
Did you see a number on that deal by chance, or?
robust intelligence.
Yeah.
If we didn't publish it, no, Bob, you could look that up.
I'm doing it now.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Sorry.
Yeah,
Interrupt.
a lot of interesting acquisitions happening this month, and I wanted to talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, robust intelligence, we certainly would track.
Cool.
On the Grok side, David, just one more comment. Grok joins Cerebras. Let's see if I get the name right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Celebris, right. That we talked about that one. That's got like every top AI person on its leadership team, right?
It is just packed full, and they have now filed for IPO. They say they want to go out before the end of the year, but we'll see if they do or not. Just so much happening around. And again, this is all the AI infrastructure, the compute. Where do you get the power to do what you want to do with AI? Okay, let's funding to women-led companies. Well, we're down to 2.5%. And again, this is actually two things: direct function of how many women-led companies are participating in later stage fundings. This month there were not a lot. We'll look at them in just a minute. But an interesting side note: PitchBook this last week published their annual review of top universities for turning out entrepreneurs. And it's Stanford and Harvard and Berkeley is actually tops this year. But the interesting point is that cumulatively, those three universities are turning out something around 4,000 total, 5,000 total entrepreneurs. Of that 5,000, less than 1,000 are women. So we got a lower population looking for funding, and that's unfortunately also going to contribute to what percentage of the total goes to women-led companies. I thought that was an interesting factoid I wanted to share.
Thanks. Yeah.
So the women-led companies this month, this is not all, this is the more interesting ones. So starting in the upper left, this is one of probably 4 or 5 that we've seen in the last couple of months, focused around college career, immediately after college career. And they're all using AI in some way. In this way, they're trying to scale college services. Their unique twist is that they're working with government bodies to use government-funded partnerships for interns. That's something like 1 billion, they say, available each year. Right below that, that's our one of the Web3 fundings this month. I said at the beginning of the year we started to see Web3 fundings again, and it hasn't stopped. There were 4 or 5 of them this month. Most of them early, very early. A couple of them now moving into Series B. The other, Elizabeth Muller. Now there's an interesting take for you. Nuclear power plants underground. Now it's pre-seed, so we're talking really, really early. We're talking concept, but that is not the kind of company we see regularly, or even close to that. And Mary Lou Jepson. Now that 54 million Series B is of note because she has previously taken out companies through growth stage. She's a serial entrepreneur, and specifically around healthcare, biotech. This is her latest.
And a Witty Hall of Famer, I think 2007, as a while ago.
Is she really?
Yeah.
She's
When
been
she,
around for a while.
yeah, well, she had the one laptop per child program in the early
Ah,
2000s.
that's it. Yep. Yep. So AI continues to grab a lot of the funding dollars that are out there. This is a mix of companies for this month. This is not all of the companies. This is probably about half of the companies that got funding. But it's an interesting mix. And where you see the focus now is on development tools, on platforms to either train the models, cleanse the data, do all of that together, but all around how do we make it easier, more predictable, less costly, to the extent that, and we've seen this a few months now, multiple models, multiple approaches taken in collecting the data. The Anaflash down at the bottom, while that's only a 1 million Series A, it's another example of how, when you look at the infrastructure and the whole compute issues, you literally go from one end of the architecture to the other. These folks are focused on one particular area that has to do with real time and IoT, and not having to move data from one place to another in order to process it. Many companies picking up on so many different aspects of how you can more effectively, efficiently, less costly complete the job you need to do with the AI you're focused on. So we have machine learning, nothing new there. You may have heard the word cursor, the name Cursor, and the press actually was running Cursor as the company, whereas it's actually AnySphere. But they're rather interesting because while they're focused on developer productivity, they started out working towards creating, well, let's call it an AI teammate, not just a co-pilot, but a teammate. And that has pushed them into some new funding that 60 million Series A, and they're moving into now beta testing on what they have. The two more items here that are interesting. One is upper right, Rune Energy. Back to infrastructure and compute. You know, there are not enough data centers out there. Our big guys, the Microsofts, the NVIDIAs, the Googles, are literally committing for 100% of the available time on data centers that are just being built now. Here's a startup that is trying to produce a data center that will be driven off of solar and wind. And of course, we are just starting to feel the impact of the need for power to drive all of the data centers that are needed to drive the AI. work that we're doing. So that caught my eye. And I think that's all for here. Oh yeah, one more thing. Again, factoid. We're seeing in the AI area, particularly public benefit corporations. At least 3 of the names out there are public benefit corporations. Magic AI is the latest that I've seen, high profile, and they're doing this so that they, at least on paper, can say that they do not have to devote 100% of their focus to the bottom line. They can focus on, in this case, developing the AGI, the superintelligence that will benefit all of humanity. And of course, that is also what OpenAI said they were doing, what Anthropic said they were doing. A few of the companies now are, or have been, organizing as PBCs, as public benefit corporations, to pursue that, or to make that more official. And our last slide for today, just a few other interesting companies we run into. We started earlier this year seeing space-focused startups. More than just your SpaceX and the ones that are totally focused on getting into space. Now we're seeing supporting companies. There was last month a company that was focused on providing the infrastructure to refuel in space, to provide additional, to refuel on oxygen, on other supplies that you couldn't or chose not to carry with you. This month, interestingly enough, this is really more of a distributor play. Gimbal space, low cost, reliable components. So that shows us we're moving down the road on space, even though we're obviously a long way from that being an active environment. Z-Biotics caught our eye because, okay, genetically engineered probiotics, but what they focused on for their flagship product is a probiotic that will offset the bad effects of alcohol. So they're going after a big market there. Anyone who overindulges, shall we say, that's their target. MoxyMed, OA, osteoarthritis is so widespread that this is, these solutions in moving into, this is well past testing. This is out in the market, seriously. Wonderful stuff to see, because there are so many people for the knee osteoarthritis that there is no really good solution for it outside of a knee replacement, and those last just so long. Let's see, Lion over on the left, again, infrastructure. In this case, well below the computer level, but they're looking at the semiconductor. How can you scale the semiconductor to put more capacity on it for less cost? Solaire is our Web3 poster child for this slide. We continue to see Solana, additional applications building on it. But the one on here that I found the most compelling, very early, and not much information out there about the funding or about the company, but early, is taking a unique approach for diagnosis of cancer. The problem being that you'd love to diagnose it early enough to treat, but blood tests cannot always detect that cancer exists. So they have taken the approach of saying, well, let's force these cancer cells to produce the kind of markers that will not otherwise exist in your body, and by doing so, make this cancer treatable while it's still local, before it metastasizes, before it gets past being early stage. So I think that covers the last of the companies. But let's talk a little bit about, David, you had mentioned acquisitions.
Yeah.
And there were, you actually mentioned one, Robust Intelligence. There have been a couple more that are more than just buying out at a low price, that there's actually some money coming back into the ecosystem. But we got this month another trend called a reverse acqui-hire. And you guys may remember that a couple years back, Facebook was one of the ones that loved to do this. They'd buy the whole company to get the engineers. Well, for a variety of reasons, in the AI arena in particular, there's a new trend, and it popped up again this month. Amazon hiring covariance founders, and the majority of their engineers paying for the technology, but not acquiring the company. Now, they've done this twice with Covariant, with Adept AI. Microsoft did it with Inflection AI. Now, whether they're doing it to avoid antitrust oversight, whether they're doing it because you're bringing in a whole team, you're more likely to succeed, open to speculation. But what's interesting is that there have been a couple of opinion pieces written about this that lay out that this may be a better thing than we anticipated, that the dollars being paid for technology, for the team, which are pretty much undisclosed, but they're sufficient enough to give the VCs a good exit, to put money back in the ecosystem. So that's an interesting trend in an environment in which we don't have a lot of exits, and we're still waiting for IPOs to hit. And the other trend I wanted to mention is that, again, around AI, there have been 5, 6, 7 more AI accelerators that have opened up in the last month. Mayfield's the latest to do this. They opened up they're calling it the Garage AI. And it's $100 million that they're committing to support individual founders who are focused on, again, it's creating more than a co-pilot, more than an agent, something that trends more towards an AI teammate, if you will. So we're still in the early days of what we're going to see with AI, and this kind of money going into new companies is just an indication, another indication of that. Okay, so just quickly, all this information comes from the research Bob and I do for Pulse of the Valley. That's our weekday newsletter. Covers fundings, covers people, covers, whoops, that was not what I meant to do. Covers people, covers M&A, exits, and interesting factoids we pick up around the startup ecosystem. I wanted to remind everyone our entrepreneur membership is open to any pre-Series A startup. That's the equivalent of our full membership for a mere $6.99 a month. Our accelerator program is open, and delightfully, we can say that Berkeley Skydeck is now part of that program as of yesterday. And just a reminder, we are the Valley newsletter, we have a fundraising platform, and right now in this terrible environment, terrible for fundraising, unless you're well connected and you are already in the VC ecosystem, in which side you're on one side of the river and you're happy and you're getting money. On the other side is everyone else, particularly the newer founders who don't have a network, who haven't gotten funded before, who are mightily struggling. For those founders, we're really focusing on do-it-yourself fundraising so that they can get out, build a network, get the names of funders who are in their ecosystem and who they can focus on effectively. So next Lunch and Learn will be October, Friday, and I encourage you to follow us on LinkedIn to get a steady stream of interesting Silicon Valley information, factoids, and what's new and happening. And that's it, David. I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Amazing. And Bob, I was thinking too while Don was speaking, I met you up here in San Luis Obispo probably 20 plus years ago. And I'm having dinner with Marilyn Wilson tomorrow, who I think introduced us. And I'm going to demo PolySense anyway.
David, I'm thinking once giving a dissertation and all this good activity, I don't think we're giving women enough credit. And I'm always beating my drum on this. I'm just going to say it again. You can disagree with me, and I'm willing to be taught. But my brother was probably the top recruiter for CFOs in Silicon Valley for many years, and unfortunately passed away. So I've learned a lot about executive recruiting. But if Heidrick and Struggles was called in to do a CEO search, called in by the board, or the founding CEOs who's retiring or whatever, the first question they're not going to ask is it a man or woman. The first question they're going to ask is, what is the strength of this person in terms of an individual? What is their knowledge of the industry? They're all about that person, their skill set. Have they done it with startups, other companies? Have they raised capital? That's what they're going to focus on. And so I think the question about do I care about a woman candidate or not? I don't think that comes up early on in the conversation. Ergo, if you look at some of the largest companies in this country in technology, they're run by women. So I'm going to make a stand. I'm going to continue to do this. That I think women are going to come up who are really strong in operations, really know the business, and are really compelling. And they're going to drive the thing. And I don't care who you hire somebody outside, some bright shiny object to bring in. So I think women are going to penetrate very actively where they have a lot of skill set, and women are getting amazing skills coming up through engineering now and every other aspect of marketing and everything else. So much that I just think that we're being unfair to women to recognize they're only qualified. There's only a small percentage. I just think it's going to change over time as women get more into the boardroom, get more into raising capital, are now in their second, third company, whatever. It's going to happen, period, in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. And I think maybe a lot of those old, recruiting firms or the Korn Ferries or the Heidrick and Struggles probably may not have networks into those people that they need to. Like a Mary Lou Jepsen, she had to kind of fight her way. And I'm going to put her Hall of Fame profile in the chat. Right. But, it's a lot of that too. And I think you're right. I don't think they care. They just want the person that can do the job. But a lot of times it's the recruitment firms that don't have the network, don't ask the right questions. And that's why we started WITI, right, in the Hall of Fame to recognize these things. And we include everybody at WITI. We actually have our men's group on Saturdays tomorrow. We have a great speaker for that.
So given that, Don, maybe what we should do is to footnote women it's their first time as a CEO. That is interesting.
Yeah, and track it and help with searches for sure.
Yeah.
Anybody have questions or comments before we go into breakout rooms?
To Bob's comment, all but one of the women on those women-led companies this month are first-time CEOs.
Really? Well, that just shows how they're getting recognized. This is all good.
Yep.
Okay.
All good.
I think Bill had a question. Was that your hand going up, Bill?
Yeah, I just got so I'm sorry, I got sidetracked by a phone thing. I wanted to ask, I've been asking this question in other groups and I'm trying to get my hands around it. And it has to do with in the AI space and where money is going. If we rewind now almost a year, there were lots of smaller companies. We got $25 million here, we got 50 million. All of this money started coming in, but it came into what I would call skins on LLMs, right? You had your model, we had our large models, and then it was like, well, let's put a skin on this for plant lovers, for this kind of thing, right? So now it seemed to be very, aim your camera and take a picture of the dying cactus in your backyard, and it'll tell you something. Okay. Now what is happening, and maybe this is me projecting just on my own behavior, but what I've been finding is that you don't need any of these skins anymore. If I want to go in the backyard and find out about a dead plant, I could just go there with my cell phone, take a picture of it, and then post it right into ChatGPT or post it right into one of the other LLMs. And boom, it will come up with everything I need to know.
Yep.
So I guess my question is, I'm wondering if people's behavior is going to migrate to this just actually very simple way of interacting with and getting information with these LLMs. I mean, I had this bag of powder that I found in a box that I was storing different Japanese foods with it, and it was all in Japanese. And I couldn't for the life of me remember why I bought it. And there were 6 other packages of it, all the same. I simply took my picture of it. I dropped that picture into ChatGPT. It translated all the Japanese. It told me all the things that this thing was used for, thickening sauce, doing this and that. So I guess my question is, are you starting to see investors moving away from all of these kind of what I just would call skins on an LLM and being replaced now with this investment in things that are much more fundamental, like Grok, that in fact all of these skins will be the first to die. They're going to be the first people that go out of business, and the $50 million that somebody invested in them will be gone. So
Well, it's
Bill, I'll
like
give you-
being featured out, right? Bob, sorry.
Bill, I was just going to say I'm the least knowledgeable guy in AI, but I've talked to 85 founders since January 1st, and so many are in AI. But I'm finding so many business models where the AI is really complementary and deep in the technology. The foundation has to be really deep, and all amazing things. From a B2C thing, I totally agree with you. Just do what you said: take a picture, go to Google, get all kinds of information. But as far as companies in the life science area, in security, in fintech, I'm hearing so many amazing things that are being done and very deep. So that's my point.
And I think it will be, Bill. Like, I don't use Crystal Nose anymore. I just tell ChatGPT to be Crystal Nose and then tell me what I want to know about a person. So I think there's a lot of that. But Don, what do you think?
Yeah, the VCs stopped funding the skins type companies some time ago. A
Yeah.
couple of the more high profile ones have gone out of business. They just no more funding. They liquidated. But what's being funded and has been, I think, for months now, is something that, like Bob said, it's got AI deep. And because it's got AI deep, it's got a moat, right? It's defensible. You can't just go out and reproduce it, which you can do with the skins anytime. So
well, right.
we're past the exuberance of, oh, AI, here's a check. And more to, okay, so what do you got? How did you build it? What does it do? And how are you going to defend it?
Right. Which was like, oh, I got a URL, here's a check.
Right.
Right. And now it's let's see more substance. Totally. June, go for it.
My question is, Bob had mentioned talking to AI companies. What I am specifically interested in at the moment is AI, but at the chip level. So way down low, like where I usually work where the hardware and the software meet. So company like Grok has now moved from selling the chip idea to selling services as a cloud service. So that's not a good target anymore. I checked the LinkSV website for semiconductor companies in this area. I only saw about 20 of them. What do you know, the NVIDIA has the everything selection with the buffet, and these guys are just serving salad. So I'm wondering what you think of that as a target market for job hunting. Is that a reasonable space to go into, expecting a bloodbath?
Well, June, just one thing, we don't see many semiconductor backed companies getting started. I mean, we very rarely find a new semiconductor, right, Dave? Very few. It takes a ton of money to start these things. So, gosh, and Don and I talk about this occasionally, maybe 2 a year at the most. So, so it's just a small number. And obviously those companies that are in semiconductors, I'm sure, are focused on AI where it's important. AMD, I know, I've been following them a little bit, and I know that anyway. So I just think it's but if you go to other sectors, Bill, if you go to the payment sector, we're tracking funding on about at least 2 payment companies a day almost. It's just crazy. So we could probably show you 400 payment companies, and we'll see what they're doing in AI, but not in semis.
Yeah, so from my perspective, the payment sector and the other stuff it feels too high level for me. A lot of it is up at the REST API level, which is just really boring. So yeah, okay, so it sounds like I should look at the AMDs. I've got a resume going into NVIDIA.
Yeah,